very warm welcome to PTV World. With the news this hour, I'm Tayyaba Nisar Khan.
Joining Tayyaba Nisar Khan for the news of this hour, I am Ali Ahmed. Let's take you to the headlines.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif urges to create global climate risk index, sensitizing the international community on the plight of the flooded areas of Pakistan. He says the country needed additional funding, not debts, to rebuild a resilient and adaptive infrastructure as the financing gap is widening by the day.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif stresses that climate change impacts have provided an opportunity to the global community to seize upon and chart a course to secure its future and support the vulnerable communities in the countries like Pakistan.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif calls for the renewed international solidarity and cooperation to address the challenge of climate change. He underscored that the vulnerable developing countries such as Pakistan are already witnessing unprecedented devastating impacts of the climate change, even though they have contributed very little to it.
Pakistan is fully committed to the objectives of the Middle East Green Initiative and offered assistance to the member countries, ensuring technical expertise on forest restoration and drylands. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif terms MGI one big step in the right direction to save the planet from the disasters of the climate change.
Pakistan and Saudi Arabia expressed the determination to further strengthen their multi-dimensional partnership. The resolve comes during a meeting between Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in a letter addressed to the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Umar Ata Bandial, pleads for the formation of a judicial commission comprising all the available judges of the Apex Court to unearth the facts behind a firing incident targeting Imran Khan in Wazirabad.
Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah emphasizes on provincial governments to fulfill their duties according to the law and constitution and take measures to open the roads and motorways under their jurisdiction. He says provincial governments of Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa have been reminded in written about their responsibilities.
Americans vote in the crucial U.S. midterm elections that could decide the political future of both President Joe Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump, who has all but announced he will seek the White House again in 2024.
Pakistan and New Zealand will meet in the first semi-final of the ICC T20 World Cup tomorrow in Sydney. PTV Sports HD is telecasting the entire event live.
International Cricket Council announces the induction of Pakistan's legendary leg spinner Abdul Qadir Patel into the ICC Cricket Hall of Fame.
now for the news in detail. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif sensitizing the international community on the plight of the flood-hit Pakistan and said that the country needed additional funding, not debts, to rebuild a resilient and adaptive infrastructure as the financing gap is widening by the day. Now, in his national statement at the COP27 summit at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, the Prime Minister said we have to fight and rebuild a resilient and adaptive infrastructure, which can only be done through additional funding, not loans and debts, but the gap is widening by the day. Now, Shehbaz Sharif told the international gathering that the climate change-induced catastrophic flooding in Pakistan had impacted 33 million people, the size of 3 European countries, where more than half being women and children. Now, he said that the floods had destroyed over 8,000 kilometers of highways, damaged more than 3,000 kilometers of railway tracks, and washed away crops over 4 million acres. Now, the Prime Minister said that the post-disaster needs assessment estimates over 30 billion rupees in loss and damage.
It was a man-made disaster. We are thankful to international community for helping us in this difficult time. But the gap is humongous. The gap is widening by the day. Therefore, it is the duty and responsibility of Global North to understand our difficulties and our plight.
Prime Minister said loss and damage need to be part of the COP agenda and climate finance must be clearly defined as well. Shehbaz Sharif said global climate risk index must also be created.
Adaptation needs to be prioritized, both in terms of financing and timelines. Loss and damage needs to be part of the core agenda of COP27 to meet the pressing humanitarian needs of those that are trapped in a crisis of public financing fueled by debt and yet have to fund climate disasters on their own. Climate finance must be clearly defined. A global climate risk index of all parties of the UNFCCC must be created under the auspices of the UN system.
Well, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has stressed that the climate change impacts have provided an opportunity to the global community to seize upon and chart a course to secure its future and support the vulnerable communities in countries like Pakistan. The Prime Minister was addressing a high-level segment of COP27 titled Climate Change and Sustainability of the Vulnerable Communities. The roundtable was co-chaired by the Prime Minister with his Norwegian counterpart. Shehbaz Sharif underlined the need for collective efforts, sharing of the resources and technology with the vulnerable countries like Pakistan, which had braced the worst devastation caused by climate-induced floods.
This is not possible to handle it alone. It has to be a combination of our efforts. We have already repurposed and redirected towards meeting this challenge.
The Prime Minister urged the international community to come forward with solid solutions to support the vulnerable communities and empower them to enhance their capacity, enabling them to overcome climate change-induced disasters.
To make sure that no one is left behind, climate finance is integral to inclusive, adaptive, and resilient recovery climate devastated global south. Financing will be a crucial element in Pakistan's climate action journey and implementation of NDCs.
Agreeing with the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre said that there should be a mechanism through which worldwide financial institutions should support climate-hit countries.
I agree with the Prime Minister of Pakistan that countries experiencing what you have experienced, Prime Minister, need urgent help in different settings from financial institutions. We should look into the debt question and other measures that can take you through this kind of extraordinary period. And there needs to be mechanisms through the UN and the World Bank, the financial institutions, and for supporting countries to address this urgency.
The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has called for renewed international solidarity and cooperation to address the challenge of the climate change. He He was speaking at a high-level meeting titled Scaling Up Action and Support on the Losses and Damages, the Global Shield Against Climate Risks on the sidelines of COP27 summit in Egypt. The event, jointly hosted by the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, was also attended by the number of heads of states and governments. The Prime Minister underscored that the vulnerable developing countries such as Pakistan are already witnessing unprecedented devastating impacts of climate change, even though they have contributed very little to it. Now talking about the situation in flood-hit areas of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif briefed the participants about the meeting of actions being taken by the government for reconstruction and rehabilitation for the flood-affected areas. The Prime Minister welcomed the inclusion of loss and damage as an agenda item of COP27 after persistently pushed by the developing countries under Pakistan's chairpersonship of Groups of 77 and China. He also said the desired financing facility should serve as primary vehicle to coordinate and mobilize the financial resources to address loss and damage in the developing countries. Now, Shehbaz Sharif said COP27 is a timely opportunity to take clear and decisive decisions in this regard.
Well, of course, Pakistan is fully committed to the objectives of the Middle East Green Initiative and offered assistance to the member countries in sharing the technical expertise on forest restoration in the drylands. Addressing the Middle East Green Initiative Summit 2022 in Sharm el-Sheikh, the Prime Minister termed MGI one big step in the right direction to save the planet from the disasters of the climate change. With the first MGI summit hosted by the Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in 2021 in Riyadh, the initiative amplifies the kingdom's coordination and knowledge transfer with the regional and international partners to achieve a reduction in carbon emissions and deliver the largest reforestation program in the world.
The earth has been calling for action, but we, it seems, have decided to learn the hard way. An initiative like the MGI is one big step in the right direction. This outstanding and wonderful endeavor is a landmark reminder of Your Highness's dynamic leadership on areas that are vital for human survival, regional rejuvenation, and a seed of much needed hope for a world looking for a greener, more biodiverse future. Nature-based solutions are also at the heart of my country's ambitious climate action agenda under the Convention and the Paris Agreement.
The Prime Minister said Pakistan fully endorsed the guiding principles of a shared vision of sustainable futures, effective collaboration, regional and international linkages, innovation-driven actions, and science-based decision-making. He said that the objectives of the MGI are aligned with objectives of Pakistan's national forest policy and the Green Pakistan program aimed at protecting the country's forests, wildlife, and ecosystems by 2030.
The objectives of the MGI are aligned with the objectives of Pakistan's national forest policy and the Green Pakistan program, which is focused on protecting, enhancing, and managing our forest, wildlife, and ecosystem by 2030. Pakistan expresses keen willingness to provide and cooperate with all MGI member countries in sharing experience and technical expertise related to the restoration of forests in dryland areas, mangroves, management of protected areas, carbon stock assessment, and establishment of forest monitoring systems.
The Prime Minister said that Pakistan's Protected Areas Initiative had increased 3.6 million hectares of protected areas for safeguarding the country's threatened flora and fauna.
Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have expressed the determination to further strengthen their multidimensional partnership. This came at a meeting between the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt on the sidelines of the Climate Implementation Summit. Now, alluding to their recent meeting in Riyadh, the Prime Minister and the Crown Prince expressed satisfaction over the growing high-level contacts. The Prime Minister reiterated that Pakistan attaches great importance to its fraternal ties with Saudi Arabia, which are deeply rooted in the common faith, culture, values, and an eternal tradition of mutual support. He said that the people of Pakistan have great respect for the custodian of the two holy mosques. King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and love for the people of Saudi Arabia. The Prime Minister also appreciated the hospitality and cooperation of Saudi Arabia for the 2 million Pakistanis working in the kingdom, who, he said, are contributing to the development, prosperity, and economic progress of the two brotherly countries. Shehbaz Sharif said, "We look forward to the upcoming visit of the Crown Prince to Pakistan, expressing the confidence that this will help further deepen the bilateral cooperation in all areas of interest." He also particularly emphasized the importance of increasing the trade, investment, development, and people-to-people ties between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Now, appreciating Saudi Arabia's assistance to the flood-affected people of Pakistan, the Prime Minister said that Pakistan is one of the countries which are most affected by climate change. The Prime Minister hoped that COP27 would yield concrete results in terms of focusing on providing financial assistance to the developing countries faced with the environmental damage and loss. Shehbaz Sharif also appreciated the Crown Prince's Middle East Green Initiative and assured the Saudi leadership of Pakistan's full support.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has said that Pakistan is keen to work with Saudi Arabia to address the issue of the climate change. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said that Middle East Green Initiative is a pioneering ecosystem restoration initiative under the dynamic leadership of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has expressed Pakistan's desire to further strengthen bilateral relations with Germany, especially in the areas of trade, investment, climate change, and renewable energy. He was talking to the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, on the sidelines of the COP27 summit. Emphasizing the need to benefit from the youth population of Pakistan, the Prime Minister said both the countries should cooperate extensively to provide opportunities to the youth in various fields. Now, expressing his gratitude for the technical training support provided by Germany to Pakistan over the years, Shehbaz Sharif stressed the need for exchanging of knowledge. He was also appreciative of Germany's support to Pakistan for the GSP Plus status in the European Union, saying it is beneficial for both the countries. The Prime Minister said, regardless of Pakistan's minimal role in the emission of the greenhouse gases, Pakistan is being severely impacted by the natural disasters resulting from the climate change. Now, he thanked the Germany and German President as well, the Vice Chancellor rather, to help in the assistance of Pakistan in the wake of the recent climate-induced floods, as he briefed the German Chancellor on the government's rehabilitation and reconstruction plan. Shehbaz Sharif emphasized the COP27 should take bold decisions to deal with the issue of climate change, especially the damage and loss caused by it. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif drew the attention of the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to the situation of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir as well, saying that regional peace and stability are at stake as a result of it. Moreover, the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had a meeting with his Netherlands counterpart, Mark Rutte, at the Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Matters of mutual interest were discussed during this meeting.
Well, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has requested the international community to support Pakistan as it is faced with massive challenges, including the climate change. He also lauds United Nations chief for his special visit to Pakistan after the flood hit. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto requested the international community to support Pakistan as it is faced with the massive challenges. Talking to CNN, the Foreign Minister said climate change is a challenge for the world. He said Pakistan was adversely affected by climate change. Appreciating the role of the United Nations chief, the Foreign Minister said after the flood hit Pakistan, the United Nations chief was the first one to visit the country.
The UN has been fantastic. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has been a champion for Pakistan. He immediately arrived as soon as the flooding happened. He was in Pakistan before the UN General Assembly with me, visiting flood-affected areas. He championed our cause at the United Nations. He was at the Pakistani pavilion today at COP27, and hopefully will be working with us going forward for our donors, conferences, etc. We would have been out of the news, off the agenda. You know how quickly things changed on this front. So the United Nations and the support from the UN Secretary General for Pakistan, for climate in general, is absolutely admirable.
The Foreign Minister said that the Ukraine crisis have had implications for Pakistan, as Pakistan used to import wheat from Ukraine. He also condemned the attack on Imran Khan. He said Pakistan has won its war against terrorism.
World and environmental leaders held a series of roundtables following the opening plenary session of COP27 on Monday to discuss key issues of common concern. The French President Emmanuel Macron attended a discussion on the innovation finance for climate development, where solutions to assist the developing countries in accessing the climate finance while alleviating their debt burden were also discussed. Other leaders and the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres attended a session on just transition and another on food security. Now, the roundtable discussions brought together world leaders, United Nations entities, financial institutions, private sector, and philanthropies all together under one roof.
The United Arab Emirates and Egypt agreed Tuesday to develop one of the world's largest wind farms in the deal struck on the sidelines of the United Nations COP27 climate summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. The 10-gigawatt onshore wind project in Egypt will produce 47,790 gigawatts per hour of the clean energy annually once it is completed. It will offset 23.8 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions, equivalent to around 9% of Egypt's current carbon dioxide output. Emirati President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan joined his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the signing of the agreement. The UN's COP27 climate summit kicked off Sunday in Egypt with warnings against the backsliding on efforts to cut emissions and calls for rich nations to compensate for the poor countries after a year of extreme weather disasters.
Now, leaders from the unprivileged countries criticized wealthy governments and oil companies for driving the global warming, using their speeches today at the COP27 climate summit in Egypt to demand that they pay up for the damages being inflicted on their economies. Small island states already battered by the increasingly violent ocean storms and sea level rise called on the oil companies to shell out some of their huge recent profits, while developing African states called for more international funds. Now, the comments reflected the tension in the international climate negotiations between the rich and the poorer states, as the delegates attended the second full day on the two-week conference.
Well, back to the National Front now, where Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, in a letter addressed to the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Umar Ata Bandial, has pleaded for formation of a judicial commission comprising all the available judges of the apex court to unearth the facts behind a firing incident targeting Imran Khan in Wazirabad. The Prime Minister in his letter said that the federal government would be indebted to the Supreme Court for consideration of its request in the interest of the rule of law. He also showed that the federal government would provide full assistance to the Commission in reaching to this objective. In his letter, the Prime Minister requested that the proposed Commission could take into consideration the 5 relevant questions, including which law enforcement body was responsible to provide the security to the Long March.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif also wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of Pakistan, Justice Umar Ata Bandial, and requested him to form the Judicial Commission to ascertain the facts regarding killing of journalist Arshad Sharif. The letter states that the commission requested to be formed comprising of all the available judges.
Inspector General Punjab Police has submitted the report of FIR of the attack on PTI rally in Wazirabad. The IG Punjab submitted FIR in the Supreme Court Lahore Registry. The Supreme Court had ordered the IG Punjab to register the case within 24 hours and had sought a report from IG Punjab.
Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah has emphasized on provincial governments to fulfill their duties according to the law and constitution and take measures to open the roads and motorways under their jurisdiction. Addressing a news conference in Islamabad, he said provincial governments of Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa have been reminded in the written about their responsibilities. Now, also, the Interior Minister said PTI Chief Imran Khan has created difficulties for the people and his Fitna March has been completely rejected by the people. To a question about journalist Arshad Sharif's murder case, he said the inquiry team has briefed him in detail about the development of the case. Rana Sanaullah said there is need to further investigate the matter. He said we are hopeful to reach the culprits very soon.
The federal government has directed the chief secretaries of Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to maintain the law and order situation to ensure the free movement of people in their respective provinces. The letters written by the Ministry of the Interior to the chief secretaries of both the provinces cited the disruption caused by the protesters to the movement of the people, which is in contravention of the Articles 15 of the Constitution of Pakistan. The article of the Constitution promises freedom of the movement to every citizen of Pakistan and is viewed with great concern. The letters pointed out that it appears that the provincial governments are failing in their constitutional and legal obligations to maintain law and order situation, which can have serious consequences. Hence, it is requested to immediately remove the protesters to restore smooth movement on motorways, highways and link roads. Moreover, the letter addressed to the Punjab Chief Secretary also mentioned Ministry of Interior's earlier letter of the 5th of November, wherein it had been requested to take effective measures for maintaining law and order situation and protection of life and liberty of all citizens in the province, being primary responsibility of the provincial government. It has also been observed that small groups of the protesters are bent on closing the motorways, highways and link roads. This is impeding the routine movement of the people, transportation of the goods, intercity travel, hampering the provision of the emergency services and children's access to the schools. It is also adversely affecting the economy of the country, and it seems that instead of undertaking efforts to control the situation, the police have assumed the role of silent spectators.
Minister for Information and Broadcasting Maryam Aurangzeb has strongly condemned Imran Khan's attempt to implicate senior journalist Hamid Mir, Murtaza Solanki and Waqar Satti in the Wazirabad firing incident. In a statement, the Information Minister advised Imran Khan to do politics but refrain from spreading mischief, chaos and disorder in the country. She said during Imran's tenure, journalists were attacked by the then government and now journalists were implicated by him in fake cases. The Information Minister asked Imran Khan not to endanger the lives of the journalists for his petty political gains. Now, Maryam Aurangzeb said that Imran is doing politics on dead bodies and journalism. She said that Imran couldn't fight a political war with the political opponents. He should do political opposition with political opponents, but should not indulge in anti-national activities. Imran Khan had threatened the lives of the three journalists by naming them, which is strongly condemnable. Now, the minister said that the entire Pakistan is a victim of foreign-funded persons who always told lies and was involved in slander and corruption.
Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chairman Imran Khan was stumped during his interview on CNN in his usual form to hurl accusations and duck serious questions. CNN's Becky Anderson pushed Imran Khan to the point to evidence based on which he has accused Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah Khan and a senior intelligence officer of hatching a plot to have him eliminated. PTI chairman then tried to evade the question but was interrupted to be more specific in his information.
Well, you've accused Pakistan's current Prime Minister, the Interior Minister, and a senior intelligence official for the attack on your life. These are serious allegations. What's your evidence, sir?
Well, Becky, about 2 months ago, this plot was conceived. I went on in public. On 24th of September, I actually announced about this plot. And let me just give you the background. How do I know?
That background we know.
Various charges.
I did, with respect, ask you for the evidence behind these allegations, if you will.
Becky, and with respect.
Well, you've accused Pakistan's current Prime Minister, the Interior Minister, and a senior intelligence official for the attack on your life. These are serious allegations. What's your evidence, sir?
Well, Becky, about 2 months ago, this plot was conceived. I went on in public. On 24th of September, I actually announced about this plot. And let me just give you the background. How do I know? and
That
so on.
background we know.
Various charges.
I did, with respect, ask you for. Khan is now calling for an independent inquiry into the apparent assassination attempt, and he again claimed, without providing evidence, that Pakistan's current Prime Minister was one of several officials behind the attack.
Lahore High Court has rejected CCPO Lahore Ghulam Mahmood Dogar's plea against his suspension from the service. Now, court directs CCPO Lahore to approach a relevant forum for the remedy. Special Assistant to Prime Minister Atta Tardar has said that the CCPO must leave his charge after the court orders, and all the orders issued by CCPO will be deemed as illegal after court orders.
Well, President Dr. Arif Alvi says Pakistan needs $40 billion for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the flood-affected areas. He was addressing Pakistan International and National Donors Conference for Relief and Rehabilitation, organized by the Pakistan Red Crescent in Islamabad today. The president said that we have to do more for the flood-affected people, as there are still areas which are disconnected from the rest of the country. He then said that the government is taking all possible measures to provide immediate support to them, but the international community will also have to come forward. He said the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the affected areas will definitely take time, but we have to prepare ourselves for the future. Dr. Arif Alvi thanked and appreciated the role of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres for his ample response to the devastation caused by the floods in Pakistan.
President Dr. Arif Alvi has urged the youth to fully bring their use the capabilities for the progress and development of the country. Addressing the convocation of New Tech University in Islamabad, he voiced concerns for the over of the rising mental stress, including the students, saying they should create a balance in their lives. The president noted that access to knowledge has become easy in the contemporary world because of technology. He said doors are open for the youth to seek more knowledge and better compete in the world. Arif Alvi pointed out that the girls are excelling in different fields of education, and it is important for the country that they remain part of the economic cycle.
Regional Director South Asia Infrastructure World Bank Wang Chi-Chan called on Minister for Finance and Revenue Sagdar in Islamabad. The Finance Minister welcomed Wang Chi-Chan and highlighted the current economic outlook of Pakistan's economy. He apprised the delegation of various policy measures being undertaken by the present government to ensure the sustainable and inclusive economic growth and development by enhancing ease of doing business, encouraging exports and facilitating various sectors of the economy. Wang Chi-Chan appreciated and congratulated Pakistan for successfully completing the fiscal reform program. He briefed the finance minister about various other programs being undertaken by the World Bank in country in line with the vision of Pakistan. He then highlighted the support by the World Bank for relief and rehabilitation work in flood-affected areas of Pakistan.
Petroleum Division has rejected the baseless views and news regarding shortage of petrol and diesel in the country. The Petroleum Division clarified that there are sufficient stocks of petrol and diesel to fulfill country's need, and news circulating in this regard is baseless and contrary to facts. It said that as per the stock position of the oil company's advisory council, the petrol stocks are around 550,000 metric tons, which is sufficient for 21 days, while the diesel stocks are 438,000 metric tons, which is adequate for 15 days. Now, it said that Pakistan State Oil's planned import of diesel for the month of November 2022 is around 220,000 metric tons, out of which one cargo is on the way to Karachi and is expected to arrive on 12th of this month, while cargoes of other oil marketing companies are in line to meet the country's planned demand.
The federal government has announced 9th of November as a public holiday in connection with the birth anniversary of the country's national poet and philosopher Allama Muhammad Iqbal. A notification issued by the Prime Minister's office said the Prime Minister has been pleased to desire that 9th of November shall henceforth be observed as a public holiday.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has instructed to celebrate the birthday of the national poet, Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, in a befitting manner. A 22-member national committee under the patronage of the Senator Irfan Siddiqui on Iqbal's vision and philosophy has been formed. According to the notification of the National History and Heritage Division, will facilitate the committee in carrying out its work on Iqbal's life, thoughts, movement, poetry, and philosophy in the month of November. The Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has ordered the committee to complete the work of compiling the activities for the month of November in 3 days.
The government is in the process of reviving its ties with the international community, particularly with the two major world powers, China and the United States. In the following report by Aisa Tahir. Let's have a look.
Pakistan has maintained excellent relations with China and it generally has had good ties with the United States, irrespective of the ties the two major powers have themselves enjoyed. China has been a time-tested and steadfast friend of Pakistan throughout. It has contributed heavily in Pakistan's development, including its defense and infrastructure. Right now, both are involved in multiple projects, namely CPEC and the Belt and Road Initiative, the brainchild of President Xi Jinping. Shehbaz Sharif has recently paid his first visit to China as Prime Minister and has become the first foreign leader to meet President Xi after his election to the office for a third historic term. But Pakistan and China have developed their ties not at the cost of their relations with other countries. This is what the Chinese Foreign Ministry announced on the eve of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's visit to Beijing. No matter how the international or domestic situations have evolved, China-Pakistan friendship has been carried on from generation to generation. It is under this spirit that Pakistan has tried to strengthen its ties with other countries, including the one with the United States, about which China never raised any concern. Underlining the importance of Pakistan for the United States in view of its geostrategic location, the State Department spokesman recently said, "We value the long-standing cooperation between the United States and Pakistan. That remains unchanged."
Pakistan is hosting around 3,000 Sikh pilgrims arrived from India through the Wagah border to celebrate 553rd birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak in Kartarpur. The Evacuee Trust Property Board has made all the arrangements, including security, accommodation, medical, and transport to facilitate the pilgrims. The Minister for Planning, Ehsan Iqbal, visited Gurdwara Janamasthan to felicitate the Sikh pilgrims and said that Baba Guru Nanak taught the lesson of harmony and tolerance. Now, the Kartarpur corridor connects Pakistani and Indian Punjab, the place of Sikhism. The corridor was inaugurated on November 9, 2018, allowing the visa-free access to Sikh pilgrims from India to visit the holy shrine. The establishment of the corridor reflected Pakistan's continued commitment to facilitating the Sikh pilgrims and was in line with the government's efforts to promote religious tourism. The pilgrims will return to India through the Wagah border on November 15th.
Moreover, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has welcomed the Sikh pilgrims visiting Pakistan to celebrate the 553rd birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said the life and the message of Baba Guru Nanak promotes brotherhood and peace. The Prime Minister said on this revered occasion he welcomes the Sikh pilgrims who have come to Pakistan from all over the world. He expressed the hope that they would have a wonderful stay in the country.
Minister for Planning and Development, Ehsan Iqbal, has said that the message of all religions is love, brotherhood, equality, and harmony. Addressing a ceremony held at Nankana Sahib in connection with the 553rd birth anniversary of Baba Guru Nanak Dev Ji, he said there are many common values between Sikh religion and Islam. As Baba Guru Nanak said, there is no discrimination in humanity. He announced that government is inaugurating a highway during the current month, which will connect Kartarpur Sahib with the motorway to facilitate the Sikh Yatris for their access to Nankana Sahib. The minister also expressed the resolve to provide more facilities to the Sikh pilgrims in the future.
John Lee, the chief executive of Hong Kong, presented Medal of Honor to the overseas Pakistani Qamar Zaman Minhas at the Government House in recognition of his public services to the Hong Kong community for over the past 3 decades.
Now, the second total lunar eclipse of the year 2022 was observed today in various parts of the world, including in Pakistan. The eclipse was visible in Asia, Australia, North Korea, North America, parts of Northern and Eastern Europe, and most of South America. Now, in Pakistan, witnessed partial eclipse from the time of moonrise.
World at large now, starting off with the US elections, where Americans are voting in the crucial US midterm elections that could decide the political future of both the President Joe Biden and his predecessor Donald Trump, who has all but announced he will seek the White House again in 2024. The entire U.S. House of Representatives, about a third of the Senate, and key state governorships are up for the grabs. President Joe Biden, a Democrat, and ex-President Donald Trump, a Republican, made their closing arguments in competing rallies. Mr. Biden's ability to pass laws will be timid if Republicans take the House, as most projections expect. Democrats currently control the White House, and by razor-thin margins both chambers of the Congress. The party in power typically sheds an average of 24 or so seats in the midterms, which fall midway through a president's 4 years in office. While Mr. Biden himself is not up for re-election on Tuesday, midterms are often seen as a referendum on the president's leadership.
Now, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has confirmed communication channels between Washington and Moscow remain open. It comes as the White House refuses to deny reports that Mr. Sullivan has been leading talks with Russia to prevent a nuclear escalation in Ukraine. Now, speaking in New York, Mr. Sullivan said that in the interest of the U.S. to maintain contact with the Kremlin, but he insisted officials were clear-eyed about who we are dealing with. The Wall Street Journal reports that Sullivan has held confidential discussions with his Russian counterpart, the Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushkev, and also the senior Kremlin foreign policy aide, Yuri Ushakov, over the past several months.
Indonesian armed forces launched a two-day security exercise near Nusa Dua a week before the G20 summit takes place in Bali. The group of 20 meet for world leaders on 15th to 16th of November is expected to be dominated by tensions over the Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Several other world leaders, including the U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping, are expected to attend the meeting.
Beijing authorities detected 64 new local coronavirus infections, enough to spark a new burst of the PCR tests for many of its residents and a lockdown of more buildings, neighborhoods, and even districts in some cases. The Chinese stocks rallied last week in their biggest weekly gain in more than 2 years on the rumors that the world's second biggest economy was preparing to relax its zero-COVID policy. But the government doused the speculation after it reaffirmed its commitment to the stringent zero-COVID policy.
Also, Twitter's new owner Elon Musk has whipped up a storm after he sacked thousands of employees last week. The controversial way the firings happened, with many employees discovering they had been laid off when they were shut out of their emails, has sparked anger, frustration, and even lawsuits against Mr. Musk. Among those sacked were some of the firm's most senior executives. In their place, Mr. Musk has reportedly put together a small team of his own friends and confidants and entrusted them with the job of implementing his vision for Twitter. They appear to include Sriram Krishnan, an Indian origin software engineer and a former Twitter executive who left the company last year.
Now, toxic smog hovering over New Delhi has left residents worried about their lungs as they're being exposed to harmful substances that have engulfed the Indian capital. A thick layer of the smog envelops the city in winter as cold, heavy air traps the construction dust, vehicle emissions, and smoke from the crop stubble burning in the neighboring states, causing a surge in the respiratory illnesses among its 20 million people. The air quality showed readings above 200 and 300 in different parts of the city. Meanwhile, raging farm fires in northern Punjab state are stoking a pollution emergency in New Delhi, but farmers express their helplessness to curb the practice, saying they cannot afford the alternatives without the government's help. The smoke from Punjab and Haryana in India's hinterland travels eastward and adds to the pollution in New Delhi.
Now, archaeologists in Italy have found more than 24 beautifully preserved bronze statues dating back to the ancient Roman times in thermal baths in Tuscany in what experts are hailing as an exceptional discovery. The statues were found over a hilltop town where archaeologists have been exploring ancient ruins for the last 3 years. The statues are 2,300 years old, used to adorn a sanctuary before they were immersed in thermal waters in a sort of ritual probably around the 1st century AD. The statues were also covered by almost 6,000 bronze, silver and gold coins.
China's biggest air show opened in Shanghai with the aerobatic performances for domestically developed J-20 stealth fighter jets, streaked by in close formation to kick off the show, and aircraft navigated by members of the country's People's Liberation Army Air Force as well. Now, the Chinese plane maker Comac C919, a narrow-body passenger jet designed to challenge the Airbus Boeing duopoly, was also in the show's flying display for the first time, performing the sharp 45-degree turns.
Mainly hot and dry weather. Dry weather is likely to be expected in most parts of the country during the next 24 hours. However, isolated rain, wind and thunder shower with snow over the hills are expected in Gilgit-Baltistan, Upper Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, northeastern and southern Balochistan, Kashmir and adjoining areas during the forecast period. According to the Met Office, a westerly wave is affecting upper and central parts of the country. That's about it from my side, Ehsan Haqqani. It's back to the main desk.
Well, thank you, Ehsan. With this, we come to the end of our bulletin. That's all for now from our side. Myself, Ali Ahmed, my co-anchors Tayyiba Nisar Khan and Ehsan Haqqani, along with the entire news team of PTV World Islamabad Studios. For more details and live streaming, do log on to our website, world.ptv.com.pk. You can always find us on our Facebook page in the name of PTV World. And don't forget to follow us on our Twitter handle @WorldPTV. For more news and updates, keep watching PTV World.